Welcome to the Real Estate Espresso Podcast, your morning shot of what's new in the world of real estate investing. I'm your host, Victor Menashe. On today's show, we're talking about a new report that was issued in the past week by Spectrum Location Solutions that examines the departure of more than 13,000 companies from California over the past decade. Many real estate investors look at U-Haul data to see where people are moving, but that only talks about population migration. People who use U-Haul are not the captains of industry. Of far greater importance is the migration of capital and the migration of head offices. After all, where the head office is located ultimately determines the jurisdiction where the bulk of the tax revenue is going to be paid. Earlier this month, we talked about taxes and the flight of capital in episode 320 on December the 4th. Now, the author of the study is a company that specializes in corporate relocation services, and for the first time, the company is openly urging businesses to relocate out of the state of California. This recommendation comes in an update to studies about companies departing California for more business-friendly locations. The study found that 1,800 companies moved out of California in 2016, setting a record high going back to 2008. And about 13,000 companies have left the state during that 9-year period, from 2008 until today. Departures are understandable. The top reason to leave the state is no longer high taxes. This comes from Joseph Vranick, the president of Spectrum Location Solutions. He's the author of the study. He said the business climate has become so difficult, and the legal climate has become so difficult that companies really should consider locating in jurisdictions where they're going to be treated fairly. The tipping point was reached when a new statute puts businesses in a lose-lose situation, no matter how hard a company tries to operate in a legal manner. The new Immigrant Worker Protection Act states that an employer that follows federal immigration law is now in violation of California law. They're committing a crime and subject to fines. However, it's also a crime if an employer fails to follow federal immigration law. Think about it. California can penalize someone in business who's a legal citizen, operating a legal business in a way that complies with every federal, state, and local law, and still they cannot get it right. They're still going to be committing a crime for somebody. The fact that the law deals with immigration is irrelevant because it makes the business owner wonder what's going to be coming next. Why impose legal penalties only for immigration? Elected officials are capable of enacting more laws that you can only imagine. The study is brimming with information naming companies that have departed, describing the locations they left and the places they went to, and relaying what CEOs have said about their decisions. The study found that 10 states benefited the most from California's losses. Top of the list was Texas, and it's held that place for almost a decade, followed by Nevada, Arizona, and Colorado. The top 10 municipalities gaining migration from California are Austin at the top of the list, followed by Reno, Las Vegas, Phoenix, Seattle, Dallas, and Portland, Oregon. Even cities unfairly disparaged for being flyover cities, such as Fort Worth, Atlanta, and Pittsburgh, have been some of the beneficiaries. Back when I was in the tech industry, I was responsible for a microprocessor design center in Austin. At the time, Apple Computer was a customer, and we had a microprocessor in the Apple Airport Express wireless access point. Now, the Apple campus was in Cupertino. That's the center of gravity for the company, and the company had almost zero presence in Austin at that point in time. Now, that was only 10 years ago. Since then, virtually all the engineers who work for me are now at Apple. At first, they were working on the graphics subsystem for the iPad, and the first group of engineers that joined Apple was about 75 in total. And Apple launched their new campus back in 2012, and today Apple employs 6,200 people in Austin. Go back a decade, and they were all based in Cupertino. In the past few weeks, the company announced plans to spend $1 billion on building a new campus, add about 15,000 tech jobs at the Austin campus. It's the single largest expansion for Apple outside the Cupertino site. A combination of a highly skilled workforce, reasonable cost of living, favorable business climate, and a favorable tax climate for the employees has made Austin one of the most desirable places to locate. More headquarters left California than any other type facility, and more manufacturers left than in any other industry. And during the study period, a total of $76 billion in capital funds were diverted out of the state, along with 275,000 jobs, and companies acquired at least 133 million square feet elsewhere. And that's just an estimate because, in truth, many of these companies don't actually report these statistics. What I reported back on December the 4th is not just hypothetical. It's backed by hard data. As you're thinking about where to make your next real estate investment, take a hard look at the tax consequence, the regulatory environment, and the business climate. Have an awesome rest of your day. We'll talk to you again tomorrow.